episode of Neighborhood Support Coach. Feeling a little fired up today, so that may be a good thing or not when we talk about the next subject that I'm bringing up, but here we go. So one thing that, I always say one thing, but another thing that often comes up in sessions that people get really conflicted about is empathy for the abuse that narcissistic people experienced. Okay. So if we haven't really gotten into things about like coping mechanisms and why we develop some of these behaviors, but narcissism is a trauma response. Okay. So it is the way that this person was traumatized or treated growing up. They learn to not be affected by it by turning off their feelings. So turning off how they felt about other people. And that was their way of coping. Okay. One thing that a lot of people say very often is, but they were abused. Okay. So basically that abuse is an excuse for poor treatment. And so this is something that I go through with them pretty frequently and help them break down a little bit. So first and foremost, anyone who has been abused and traumatized does not deserve it. Okay. So this narcissistic person in your life, I have all of the empathy in the world for the child that was traumatized and abused. If I could go back in time and help every child, 100% I would. I would validate this, the person who's narcissistic and abusive, their trauma, their experience, because yes, not okay. And even understanding why they do what they do now, fine. However, just because you were abused does not give you permission to abuse other people. Because if you look at it this way, where do we stop the clock? Okay, so what I mean by that is this person in front of you has been abused, okay? But guess what happened to them? The person that abused them, they were abused. And the person that abused them, they were abused. So if we say that it's okay for abused people to abuse, when do we ever say it's not okay? Because every person who abuses was abused. And to be honest, the more abusive you are as a person, typically the more horrendously you were abused. So we have to A, look at it like that, okay? B, my other thing is every day I have clients in my office, telepsych, they were abused. Every single one of my clients was traumatized, was treated terribly. And you know what they're doing? They're in therapy to do everything possible to make sure that that abuse doesn't cause harm to themselves. That abuse doesn't cause harm to the people in their lives that they care about and that they love. And it's not easy. It's not always fun. You have to take accountability. You have to look at some really terrible things that have happened to you in your life. You have to learn new coping mechanisms. You have to rewire so many pieces of yourself, okay? So when I have an abusive person in front of me and they go, well, I was abused. I can't help it. This is how I am. I don't want to hear it. I don't have zero empathy for that, because I have people every day who are fighting to heal from their trauma and fighting to be better people. And they didn't do it because it was easy. So you could make a choice as an abusive person to do the work, and you're choosing not to. So again, we can have two ideas and beliefs that exist at once. I know that that's hard for us. Cognitive dissonance, again, I will do an episode about that at some point, but I can have, people aren't just black and white. I can have empathy for the child that was hurt, 100%. But when it now comes to the new person that's being hurt, that's who's going to get my empathy, not the abuser. So again, I'm a little fired up today. When you have narcissists in your own life, even as a therapist, sometimes they really get under your skin, and we do the best that we can to cope with it. So that's why abuse is not an excuse to abuse. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, definitely write them down below. Subscribe, like, and I will try to have another video for you in a few days. Talk to you soon.